What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we're heading up to the mountains and trying to avoid the wildlife as we talk about A24's newest film, Death of a Unicorn.
Father-daughter duo Elliot and Ridley hit a unicorn with their car and bring it to the wilderness retreat of a mega wealthy pharmaceutical CEO. Ben, hello. We are back again, unfortunately, talking about a film that I guess exists, I think is the best way to kind of preface this conversation.
It is a film that is out there that people can see if they choose to.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
We'll get into
it. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it. We'll talk about it. Let's talk about some more interesting stuff first. Let's talk about a little bit of A24 housekeeping. We have a couple of things to mention. I don't have it here in the notes, but it is on top of mind. A24 did announce that they are doing collector's editions of both Queer and A Different Man. They are adding these to their physical media slate, which is very exciting. I think I'll be purchasing A Different Man, Queer, currently streaming on Max, and although I am a physical media guy, I think A Different Man is kind of a little bit more worthy, I think, of a physical ownership than Queer might be, at least in my opinion. Do you plan to pick either of these up?
I mean, I still haven't seen Queer, but I did enjoy A Different Man quite a bit, so I could see myself picking that up for sure. I've also got a birthday coming up actually this month, so we'll see what this the triple A24 gift is or possibilities are this month. We'll see. Yeah,
that's super exciting. I'm going to take it that you didn't buy the $100 replica of the building in The Brutalist.
I did not. No, it's just
hard decision.
Skip that one. Yeah, I know.
Skip that one. Speaking of merch, that ties in, I guess, to this movie. A24 has come out with a unicorn horn. Maybe that's something we can talk about more as we talk about this film. That's the thing that also exists. We did get an official date for The Smashing Machine, the new Dwayne Johnson film from one of the Safdies, coming out October 3rd. I think a little interesting on the release date. I think we had both kind of assumed that we are doing an Academy Awards play here with this film, which I still think is very much in contention, but an early October release, that is like early on that slate and early on that kind of timetable of things.
Yeah, they're getting started on it early, for that kind of like awards season push. I thought it might be closer to like a Thanksgiving release, if not Christmas. So yeah, to start out the whole, fourth quarter of the year with this, it's kind of an interesting move for sure.
Definitely an interesting move. We also got a date for this movie out of Sundance called Sorry Baby. I believe it was the only acquisition for A24 out of Sundance. Going to limited cities on June 27th. So that is worth noting as well. Currently, the only thing slated for Q4 for A24 is The Smashing Machine on October 3rd and Marty Supreme on December 25th, a Christmas release. So two Academy Award contenders, possibly. Yeah. We'll see. I don't think what we're talking about here today will be in the Academy Award conversation, and something that I kind of would like to maybe investigate a little bit here is A24's slate. But the final piece of housekeeping, we did get a new trailer for the Philippou brothers, their new movie, Bring Her Back. It is their next film after the widely acclaimed Talk to Me that is still getting a sequel, I believe, but they are working on this film right now. We, both of us, just watched the trailer for the very first time before we started recording. What did you think of it?
I think I have a most anticipated and least anticipated movie in the same film because I'm scared to go see it. Not because I don't want to, but I'm just like, I don't know that I can go sit through this film. It looks pretty intense, but I'm very excited about it because I love Talk to Me. And I kind of trust what these guys do. So they haven't let us down yet. They're 1 for 1. So it's like, let's see what they do with this follow-up movie.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. And I actually share a lot of the same sentiments that you do in the fact that I will be incredibly terrified when I go see this film. I actually think the trailer is cut pretty well. I'm pretty interested and pretty enticed. I pick up on a little bit of kind of Hereditary vibes, Hail Paimon type stuff going on here. From what I can see, I think the visuals look really good. I think it is their wheelhouse. They know what they're doing, obviously.
Yeah.
I think Talk to Me had a lot of those kind of essences as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I thought to myself while watching the trailer, I hope that they maintain a kind of a grounded nature for the whole movie. I'm a little worried, and I think Talk to Me kind of takes a similar spin. I remember like kind of the final 10 minutes of being like, that's not really where I wanted to go. So I wonder if they do the same thing here. I'm hopeful that it kind of like does paint the full picture of like a really good horror movie. It does have a May 30th release date, which I think is pretty similar to what Talk to Me got. I think Talk to Me was like an early June release, if I'm not
summertime
mistaken.
release. Yeah,
summertime release. What was that? A couple of years ago now?
Yeah, is it 2022 or 23?
Talk to Me. Excuse me. July 28th, 2023. I'm glad I corrected myself. People that came for me. So late July. So we're bumping it up quite a bit here. Interesting.
Yeah, maybe get some more of that early summer, people coming through.
This release, the May 30th release, kind of weekend that this has, saw 2 years ago, 2023, saw Past Lives in that weekend slot.
Okay.
Interesting. Very fascinating. So something to keep in mind. I'm excited for that movie. I think it looks pretty good. I'm excited to go see it. I think it'll be great kind of to break up the pre-summer madness with a really good horror film, hopefully.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about really good horror films. We're talking about extremely poor pseudo-horror films, I think is maybe the adequate way to put it here on this episode. We are talking about Death of a Unicorn, a brand new movie starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega and Richard E. Grant and Will Poulter and some really famous people.
Yeah. Tia Leone.
You mentioned, Tia Leone. You mentioned that this is a movie that people could go see if they so choose to. What did you think of Death of a Unicorn, Ben?
Not much. I'll tell you that. I did not think much about it. I don't know. Like,
can you let people know what you texted me? Can you let the people know what our conversation was?
Oh, I don't even. Do you remember? I don't remember exactly what I said.
Yeah, because you quite famously never log things on Letterboxd, and you quite famously never indulge me in any pre-pod thoughts about our movies and our movie watching experiences. And I kind of texted you this morning, and I was like, hey, what are we going to do for A1 Act? How are we going to shape these notes? And I said, I'll try to write out some of the true cinema. I'll try to get us a little prepared for the pod, show the people that we're putting in the work. And you replied, movie starts, movie is bad, credits roll. And that's the pod.
Yeah. See you next week, everybody. That's I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know what this movie was supposed to be, and I don't know that it does either, which is kind of a bummer. It's a good cast. We just named all these people. It's like it's a good group of people that know how to act, and you'd think, maybe they just suffered from the script here, because this was just how do you, not that he was unlikable, but how do you make Paul Rudd not likable in a movie? Like, he's just, it was so weird. Like, he's Paul Rudd, you should like him in everything. And this one, I just like didn't care about him. It's not that I didn't like him. I just like didn't care. I wasn't attached to him at all. Jenna Ortega was like the only thing I kind of cared about a little bit. And we had some funny stuff from like Will Poulter and Anthony Carrigan, like some comedic moments, but overall I was like, was this, it's on here, it gets labeled as like dark comedy, dark fantasy, monster horror, on IMDb. Those are some of the genres it gets. It's just like, I guess, but I felt like it was kind of floundering between everything, and then it just landed on nothing. So, kind of a bummer of a movie, and I'm not sure what people read that made them want to sign up for this film. I have no clue.
So that is exactly where I wanted to go with this conversation. It is a movie that essentially accomplishes nothing on kind of any front. It has nothing to say. It has no intriguing visual stakes. It has no character stakes. It doesn't say anything about mega wealthy pharmaceutical CEOs or their indulgence in purchasing nature reserves or any social commentary whatsoever. It kind of gets lost pretty swiftly, I would say, pretty quickly within this film. I wanted to go on to the question, and since you asked it, well, we should proceed in that direction. Why did people sign on for this movie? Jenna Ortega is like, she's a big deal right now. You know, she's a
Yeah.
scream queen. She's got exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. I'm going to pull up her IMDb so we can kind of maybe go through this for a second. But like, how, other than a paycheck, which, you know, get paid, do your thing. I don't fault that at all. She's coming off of the quite successful Beetlejuice. You know, that's she's doing Wednesday as well. A couple years ago, did Scream 6, really big movie. She's got 5 movies either in production or pre-production right now. And
wow,
this is what she's doing with her time. And you know, I don't like that for her. So that's one thing. You mentioned Paul Rudd. Can I go out on a limb and say something that might be rather offensive?
Yeah, I would love that.
I think Paul Rudd was fucking terrible in this movie. I think he was so bad. What happened to our guy?
I don't know. This like press tour that he's on, he's more entertaining than he is in this film. Like he just wasn't really good in this, you know? Like I would watch him day drink with Seth 100 times before I'd watch this movie again. Like,
yeah,
it's just kind of rough. And I don't know, this is again, like we don't make films. I don't understand. It's a hard thing to do. I'm not trying to shit on it, but just trying to give like my feelings or my thoughts on it. But to that extent, I also don't know, like this is a directorial debut. So none of these people I don't feel had like ties to the director of like, oh, I want to help him out or anything like that. Like I can't find any connection between this person's IMDb and anyone that's in this cast. First feature film, he wrote this as well.
Yeah, first script, full length.
I don't know. He's produced a lot of stuff, but I mean nothing I've really heard of. So I don't know. I'm kind of baffled at like how this all came together.
I'm a little bit baffled as well, and I'm trying to think of what A24 might have seen here. Of course, we do have Paul Rudd in Friendship, which is coming out in May as well. The new Tim Robinson movie that I saw back at TIFF last year. Fucking incredible. Just truly sublime stuff from Paul Rudd. So I'm a little, you know, just like curious about what transpired here. Of course, Paul Rudd does have Avengers Doomsday coming up in a couple of years. He is in the Anaconda reboot with Jack Black. So that's a movie that is happening. And yeah, it's just a little bit unfortunate. I'm trying to think, and you know, we mentioned last time on the show the Opus situation of like, oh, the bobblehead, they're going to sell that, right? Turns out they did not sell the bobblehead. Death of a Unicorn, pretty good marketing opportunity to sell a unicorn horn. So maybe that's it.
And I don't know. What is it? I don't even know exactly what it is. Like, I'm going
to pull it up here. So it's a Death of a Unicorn blood lamp. Now, it is an oversized glass unicorn horn filled with glowing purple liquid made from unethically sourced unicorn horn in collaboration with Craig Hill, which is a brand that I'm unfamiliar with. It apparently weighs 4.5 pounds. It's expected to ship in July. Now,
do you see that price tag?
I see the price tag. The price tag is 125 American dollars. I will say, if you are sensitive to sexual talk, maybe tune us out for a second. This is a glass dildo. This is what this is.
Ribbed for everyone's pleasure, because that is wild looking for sure.
I mean, that's how the internet reacted. It's almost identical.
Yeah,
so I don't really know what we're doing here. I just like all around, whole project, merchandising, actors, movie, don't understand it.
It's so interesting too, because I feel like usually some of their merch comes after the success of a film.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, cool. Like people
this
love
came out before
I
had even seen this movie.
Yeah. And that's just like wild to me. Like, do they really, I don't know. I guess they just had this in production already and they were going for it. But, you know, the Talk to Me hand like that, I think came well after the movie had been out for a while. It's like, oh, they have to sell these things, right? Like, and this one's like, oh, we're going to put this out before the movie in hopes that like maybe people buy it before they realize like what movie it's attached to. I have no idea.
I don't understand. Like, I'm really confounded, and I don't really want to get away from like what we're talking about here. And I understand we're trying to talk about Death of a Unicorn, but like we are an A24 pod, so I am like genuinely naturally curious here about the A24 optics of things. Like The Legend of Ochi, a new movie that comes out April 25th, features like a basically a puppet monkey type animal that is like on a legendary quest, a magical creature. Again, we're kind of doing the same thing. Now, I think I can kind of understand where they're coming from with that, because I've heard The Legend of Ochi is kind of a more family-oriented story. Death of a Unicorn, I believe, rated R, if I'm not mistaken. Like, we're dropping several F-bombs in this movie.
Yes,
and
rated R.
Talking about, like, definitely adult things. Now, all of this to say, if you go on the A24 shop, they have a In Search of Ochi field guide that you can purchase that is like a book about this magical creature and finding this magical creature and the backstory of Ochi. This movie is not released to the general public for another, 3 weeks? I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Got me. I have no clue. This is
just something.
Decision making is so interesting here.
So interesting. Okay. Let's steer back to this movie about unicorns. Cost $15 million, made $5.7 million through about a week of playing in theaters, which is like fine, I guess, for a $15 million budget.
Yeah.
But you would hope that big movie stars are a bigger draw than that. I'm curious about your movie-going experience here. Were you the only person in the theater? Were there other people there? Did they laugh? Like, what was the layout?
There were other people there. I saw it on like a Sunday afternoon, I believe. And there was probably like 10 of us in the theater. And it was one of the earlier shows. I think it was like 1:30 or something like that. So I think overall it's like an expected turnout for this kind of time, on a Sunday. But it was a mix, and this is one of those movies where it's just like, what is the demographic that they're pulling for? Like, is it the younger Jenna Ortega crowd? Is it the Paul Rudd fans? Like, who is this? I guess they'll take anybody, but I just didn't know exactly what kind of demographic they were hoping to show up for this film.
I have no idea. I have no clue. There was like 3 other people in my screening. I went on a Wednesday at 8 p.m. and not a single chuckle, not a single giggle, not a ounce of noise from anybody inside of the theater. I believe this movie is supposed to be pretty funny, and it did not come across as such, and so that happened, and that's too bad. I thought this movie was like deeply unfunny, to be honest. I thought like the tone was a complete nightmare. I echo everything you said of like, what are we trying to do here? I thought visually, stylistically, it was all just like fine, I guess, like incredibly average. I thought this movie was really boring. I just thought it was like really boring. And I watch a lot of movies. You watch a lot of movies. Like I put in the work, and if I'm making the trip to go to a cinema, I'm pretty locked in. And I have got to be honest with you, I started to doze a little bit during like the third act of this movie. And I sat up and I was just like, what is happening? What is going on? And why do I feel so unconnected to this film? I think it's not good at all, pretty much on any front.
Like, can you imagine, like, if I had told you 2 weeks ago, we're going to be watching a movie and you wish you were going to be watching Opus instead?
Opus. Exactly.
Like, what?
Unbelievable.
Like, we're kind of, unfortunately, we had this like little hiatus, and then we come back and we're 0 for 2 right now. And it's just kind of, it's frustrating, but I don't know. I guess I only go up from here, but I found myself thinking that while watching it, which is never a good thing. It's like, man, we kind of had it with Opus. We didn't realize it did, but like, it wasn't that bad, but it was, but it wasn't this,
Yeah. I guess like currently I've seen 15 new releases this year. I have Opus at 10 and Death of a Unicorn at 14. So not great at all. And yeah, I think this movie is like just really, really poor all the way around. So like, I kind of put in the notes here, like Death of a Unicorn, we're like the death of A24. Like what's going on in the beginning of the year here? Because I don't think this is a good look. I saw Parthenope, which was like the
Mm,
kind of Italian film that nobody on this planet saw at all, apparently. I thought it was not very good, unfortunately. So, like, I have not seen On Becoming a Guinea Fowl. That's the one that's been released this year that I haven't seen.
mm.
So, like, 3 out of the 4 are like poor, fine to poor films.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. And that is the reality that we live in here on the podcast. Kind of sucks for us, but we put in the work, we trudge forward, and we try our best, I guess, not to hit a unicorn. So we
Yeah.
should talk about this film in detail. And let's just have a super duper honesty corner real fast. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time breaking this movie down. I just don't see what there is to talk about.
I don't necessarily want to relive this movie. So the faster we get through this, the better, I think, for everybody.
Man, 2 guys who love to pod, just taken down by the system, not giving
So
good content.
unfortunate. Yeah.
It's too bad. Okay, let's talk about True Cinema for Death of a Unicorn, a film that we have both seen. Okay, let's talk about the initial kind of situation here. I've kind of broken it up into bigger chunks. If you want to get down to brass tacks and talk about more specific things, we can absolutely do that. But we are introduced to Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, and their characters in this movie, Elliot and Ridley. They're driving to what is essentially like kind of a business retreat weekend for Paul Rudd's character of Elliot. He is going to his boss's kind of retreat, this big pharmaceutical CEO, and is going there to essentially be named the next in line to make decisions. His plan is to work his way up, be on the board for about 10 years, make a bunch of money. We are quickly kind of like directed into a big exposition dump of they have lost their mother, their wife, and their life has been hard ever since. And Paul Rudd has a lot of really bad allergies, and Jenna Ortega vapes. And that's pretty much everything we're told about in the beginning before we hit a unicorn. I didn't give a shit about any of it. To be honest, I thought it was all really lazily put together.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. This script is just unfortunate, like all the way around. It's kind of a bummer, and nothing. As this was all happening, all I kept thinking about was like, oh, this kind of looks like the drive at the beginning of The Shining. That's cool. Like that's all I was thinking about. It's just like that's not what I should be focused on right now. Like I should be like paying attention to what's happening here, and I just like. Okay, so she has acne, and he's like, stop picking at your skin. It's like, okay, I mean, she's a teenager, I guess. Like, it's just that happens, whatever. Yeah. So, yeah, again, just like no investment at all in these people. As much as they're telling us, I still just like didn't care.
I think Paul Rudd was just like remarkably stiff in this scene, too. Like, I just didn't like, had nothing going for him where I was like, it's Paul Rudd. Like, even his little beats or one-liners that he's supposed to deliver, I thought were really subpar. Like, I thought they just didn't work kind of at all. So that's unfortunate. They then proceed into a nature reserve. Now, I have a lot of questions. Of course, this is a movie about magical unicorns, so those questions might not be answerable or might not apply. But wouldn't you think that a mega wealthy pharmaceutical CEO who lives in a lodge in a nature preserve would know that there's unicorns there? Like, okay, let me pose this to you. Would that not make for a 10 times more interesting movie where it plays as a thriller of, the information has been revealed that he actually does know there's unicorns there, and he's relying on the people that he invites to the home to find the unicorns, and he can't find them himself. Like, make something there, make some tension there, because the rest of the movie is just played as like, oh my God, unicorns live here? And it's like, you live here. This is your home. How do you not know?
Yeah, that would be a much more interesting story. Just like, okay, I brought you here because we know that unicorns are here, but we need to like trap them or something to like see what kind of medical benefits we have because we're like selfish pharmaceutical CEOs and we want to make money off this. Like there's a way to do that, but I didn't like how it was handled.
No, they hit the unicorn. Jenna Ortega then touches the horn of the unicorn and sees the universe, essentially. And we are smash cut away from that to Paul Rudd kind of hacking at this thing with a tire iron, which I think would be funny under like better circumstances, that I found just like really grating and not funny at all, which sucked. So that was kind of the whole introduction. And then we like cut to the black and it's like death of a unicorn. And you're like, oh, that's funny. We just watched the death of a unicorn.
It's like the title. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
yeah, you
the
guys
thing
did
that
it.
happened.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And then the rest of the movie proceeds. Do you have anything else to say about hitting the unicorn?
No, I mean, again, I think that was one of my first moments of concern, is what you just mentioned, is that smash cut to like Jenna Ortega coming out of like the trance to having the blood splattered on her face. Like, I feel like there's a movie or a scene here that's like, this is funny, like where this could be funny, or, you know, kind of it's played for jokes a little bit more. And this is just like not working. And I'm worried that the rest of the movie is going to be like this. And it kind of was. And that's a bummer.
They arrive at the lodge. This is where we meet a lot of the characters here. Téa Leoni. We meet Anthony Kerrigan of, I believe he's from Barry, if I'm not mistaken. He plays Griff. We meet Richard E. Grant, who plays Odell, kind of the head CEO. And then we meet Shepard, played by Will Poulter, who is kind of the offspring of these two people. And he is really, really working hard to fill that really average son, who is the son of really smart people, and he's not quite as smart. And so he has to be funny.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a bummer that we're just like going to really tropey character things right off the bat.
I mean, I agree with you, but can you imagine if we didn't have Will Poulter in this movie? Like,
my God. If we didn't have Will Poulter in this movie, maybe one of the worst movies of the 2020s. Like, I don't feel like I'm being too harsh by saying that.
No, I mean, I agree with you. Like, he and Anthony Kerrigan were the only saving graces for me in this film. And I just can't imagine if we didn't have him at all. Like, I think between the two of them, that's where my 2-star rating came from. And even then I was kind of like, is this a 1.5 star? Like, I was feeling generous, I guess. I'm like, we'll give it 2 stars. But like, I was really leaning on the edge there of like 1.5 stars.
I gave it 1 star. I feel good about that. I feel confident. There is a moment in this movie, and I'm going to forget to talk about it later, so I'm just going to quickly mention it right now. Very similar in its style of like, that's supposed to be funny, but it's more like, oh, that's supposed to be funny. And it is where Anthony Kerrigan's character, they're all like kind of freaking out over who needs to go outside for the unicorns and to basically like be bait for these unicorns. And everybody's like kind of frantic and panicking. He proceeds to physically lift a clock, a big kind of grandfather clock, I believe, and move it across the room. And then interstitched in between arguments of characters, the camera goes to him and he says, something about this isn't the place for, or this isn't the time to do this, or something, you know, like a funny punny joke about time.
Yeah.
And at that moment I knew, oh, this is bad. This is really bad, because it's not good. It's just not good.
No, it's unfortunate. I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, that's the word for this. This is just an unfortunate film script, everything.
Okay. Anything else to talk about arriving at the lodge, getting settled in at the lodge? Anything of note that you can think of here?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, it's not good podcasting, but like, I don't know, man. Like, the unicorn comes back to life, I guess, you know, and then we get another smash cut of it just getting shot in the head. And it's like, all right.
We did it again.
Cool.
We did it again.
It didn't work the first time. It's not working this time.
If this is your first time listening to our pod, I promise we are nicer. We are nice people. We really are.
Yeah, we like movies.
We love movies. We love A24, just not this one in particular. Which reminds me, a lot of movies that came out during our hiatus that we just haven't decided to revisit yet. And I feel like you're doing it to spite me a little bit. You know, You're trying not to get the world to hear my brutalist takes.
We can't all be brutal boys. I will cover the first half with you, and then I'll find a guest for the second half.
Yeah, we'll split it into a 2-parter, 3 hours each, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, we cure cancer. So we bring the unicorn back, and essentially, somehow, I can't remember exactly by which device. They're like, let's shave off a little bit of the horn, and we need to research this, and we got to figure it out. One of my biggest problems with the movie is that this is supposed to be the lodge and the mansion of an incredibly mega wealthy pharmaceutical CEO, and it kind of has the potential to have great social commentary on what this is and what this means and eat the rich and all of these things. And it just doesn't do any of that whatsoever. And it grinds up some of the powder of the unicorn horn, gives it to Richard E. Grant's character, who is frail and dying from cancer. Paul Rudd, his allergies are cured. Jenna Ortega's acne is all of a sudden gone. That's how they discover, hey, we should probably get in on this unicorn business. And the next scene we see is Richard E. Grant down a hallway, staring dead center into the camera, throwing his cane behind him, like just a real stage guy. And then we get led into this montage. Phone calls, selling unicorn blood, drinking unicorn dust. And I thought that was like one of the very singular, redeeming, funny 30 seconds of this movie. All of them trying to like kind of businessy their way into the unicorn business. But unicorns are magic and they cure cancer. So we should sell it.
Yeah, I guess like if anything, maybe that's the one reflection the movie makes about how quickly these people will jump on an opportunity to make money, and even then it's like they say, I think like it's not going to go to the public. It's just going to go to some very lucky people, like that have money.
Very few people that are their people.
Yeah, that are their people. Exactly. So we kind of get a little bit of it, but again, like it's not really hit in the sense that it could have been, I think.
Definitely. Totally agree. When they're talking about how it cures cancer, I know this one-liner is in the trailer where Will Poulter is like, cancer, that's the big one. Pretty funny. His delivery of that, pretty good, pretty funny.
Yeah.
That's the one instance where I was like, man, Will Poulter's got some juice.
He does. And again, like a lot of movies do this, but this was a movie I think that felt guilty of every funny thing is in the trailer.
Yep.
Because like nothing caught me off guard during the movie. It was just like, it was those repeated lines, like even just kind of like, I feel like I shouldn't be in swim shorts for this. Like that's, it's kind of a funny delivery.
Kind of funny.
Like he's the one that's like the saving grace here.
Will Poulter's had a really fascinating career. Obviously gets pretty big for Black Mirror Bandersnatch. He's in a few things before that I think are worth mentioning, but Midsommar in 2019. And then he basically makes some miniseries and like short videos. And then he shows up as Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And then he's in The Bear. And then he's in this. He has another movie, On Swift Horses, that I do not recommend, that comes out this year. Saw it at TIFF, almost fell asleep. He's in Warfare, the A24 movie that we're covering next episode. Interesting. I feel like he has a lot of potential. He's just like not being utilized in the right projects. And this is definitely not the right project for him. And then essentially I just have here the death start. I feel like we kind of just like enter a Final Destination situation where unicorns, there are two black unicorns that have decided to come to this home in search for the dead unicorn and the horn, more specifically, of this dead unicorn. I believe it was like a baby unicorn, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we're led to believe for sure. And
so people start dying. Lead researcher dies in a tunnel. I can see they're trying to do Jurassic Park. They're trying to do E.T., trying to do the things. Doesn't work kind of on any situation. We see it in the trailer. Big bummer. Odell. This is Richard E. Grant's character. Trying to talk to two big, dark unicorns, and he just gets speared, and he dies. Belinda, the mom, she gets killed on a pool table. Will Poulter can't fire a flaming arrow to save her because he's high off unicorn dust. And then Shepard, Will Poulter's character, gets knocked out kind of outside as these things transpire. those were the big deaths. Oh, and Dr. Bhatia is torn in two outside, torn in two by these things. I I don't know. I kind of rolled my eyes every time somebody died because I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. Like, this is just what we're doing for half an hour.
Yeah, and this is part for me where it's just wondering, are these supposed to be comedic deaths, or is this
Right.
supposed to be scary? Like, is it supposed to be a horror? Like, I couldn't tell what was the intent, I guess, behind these deaths, or like how they all happened. Because I feel like you could have made some of these like pretty intense and pretty scary, but none of them really played out that way for me.
Yeah, a real middle ground between comedy and horror. I don't think it really knew what it wanted to accomplish. So I have all of those listed here. Those start to happen. And then we kind of get to the ending. So I think it's worth mentioning Will Poulter's character becomes addicted to snorting unicorn horn.
Yeah.
And then becomes really smart.
Yes. Yeah. He puts together this narrative of the tapestries that Jenna Ortega's character had kind of already been talking about. So yeah, I guess this made him intelligent, the unicorn horns.
I guess.
I guess.
I love your shrug. Yeah, if people are not watching on YouTube, I highly recommend just for that moment alone. So we kind of get the ending. Ridley, Jenna Ortega's character, has been working this whole time to basically convince these super rich people of like, hey, this is historically important. Unicorns have always been seen as having healing powers. I think we should respect nature. And then obviously, we kind of get this monologue from Richard E. Grant that's like, man will always find a way to overcome nature. And I think there's a lot of things there that it really does a disservice to in terms of thematic value for this film. And then put together all the tapestries. Ridley is the only person who has touched the unicorn horn. At some point in time, Paul Rudd dies. Am I correct? I think this is when I was started to get like really disinterested in the film.
Yeah.
What happens here?
That's a wonderful question.
I don't mean any ill will. No ill will toward this film. I'm not a terrible person. I do think it speaks to the kind of really unentertaining aspect of this film. Like, we can't answer these very basic plot questions.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Like this, again, like if you're the first time listening, like this, we usually don't shit on stuff like this. But this was just like such a bummer. I don't know. I don't.
It's just a bummer.
Yeah.
Somehow Paul Rudd dies. He resurrects with a unicorn somehow. They both touch the unicorn horn. It's like met in the middle, which I thought was really trite and really lame visually to like have crossing unicorn horns and like we all see the universe kind of a thing. Cops arrive and they're like, hey, if they don't have any witnesses, they're suspects over the radio. And you're like, oh no, they're going to be suspected of killing all these people. And then they see the flock of reunited unicorns, the child among the two adult unicorns that are not black anymore.
Yeah,
they're
I guess
white.
their anger is gone, so they're back to white.
Right. I think they're happy now. So happy unicorn is white, mad unicorn dark. And then they knock the police car over the edge. Basically, they give Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega like a little warning, a little wink, and they buckle up. And this cop car gets thrown off of the edge of probably a fucking 150-foot drop. Everybody's dead. Yeah. There's no way they survived that.
No, I didn't understand this ending. It's like, what's happening here? Like,
no clue.
At best, they land in the water and drown. Like, I don't understand like what's happening here. This is such a crazy ending. And then we just literally cut to black. It's like, okay, I guess that's it.
It was terrible. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't very good. So, unfortunate. We don't mean to talk poorly about films. I'm sure a lot went into this movie. People dedicated their time, their craft, these things. I think it is a very poor film, unfortunately. So pick a true cinema moment. My true cinema moment is Will Poulter saying, cancer, that's the big one. And that's where it ends.
Yeah. I think mine is just him saying, I feel like I shouldn't be in swim shorts for this. Like, again, two things that you saw in the trailer. So those are the best parts of the movie to us.
It's not good.
No, not good.
Not great, Bob. Not great. Okay, let's do our A1 act here. just move swiftly into this. So we're gonna go with Paul Rudd. I thought Paul Rudd might be fun.
Yeah.
Talk about him a little bit here. So of course we have the death of Unicorn. We've got the MCU. He is Ant-Man. So I guess feel free to pick any MCU movie at your leisure. Friendship comes out in May. I have seen it. It is a substantial work in the comedy genre. We've got the Ghostbusters reboot franchise that I guess he's in a lot of those things. The Catcher Was a Spy, a movie that I had to watch for my master's program that, in case anybody has seen it, probably shares a similar feeling, is very poor. It is not a good movie. Wet Hot American Summer. I put Parks and Rec on the list. Important work from Paul Rudd there. Anchorman 2. This Is 40. The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Dinner for Schmucks. I Love You Man. The 40-Year-Old Virgin and Clueless. That is what I put on the short list here on the doc.
Yeah.
Anything calling to you? Anything sticking out?
Let's see. I think probably I Love You Man is probably the one that I would pick out of this list. Like, there is a lot of good stuff here, and there's some stuff we didn't mention that he's good in, like even in Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, he plays John Lennon. There's been some mention of that lately with this Beatles cast, being announced. But
it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably go with I Love You Man. I think that's my favorite out of these.
Okay. A movie I haven't seen, so I should probably get on that. Okay. What am I going to choose? I think I am going to choose The 40-Year-Old Virgin because it's the one that I've seen the most out of any of these films. And I still think it's pretty funny. And I think it's like early Paul Rudd,
Yeah.
Like, but back before he was Paul Rudd, I think it's kind of like the cusp of that, where it kind of ended for him. I'm a little surprised he didn't choose Wet Hot American Summer.
I try to be like Sophie and just not mention everything every time. The same thing every time. So
sure.
Obviously Wet Hot American Summer is probably number one on here, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, cool. Paul Rudd, he's been in some good stuff. He's also been in a lot of maybe not good things, I think, is important to note, which is too bad. And I don't think Death of a Unicorn is helping him in this endeavor. Okay, let's give our A24 ranking for Death of a Unicorn. Last week, you gave Opus a D. I gave Opus a D+. What are you feeling for Death of a Unicorn?
I will say the eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed throughout this pod, I went onto my letterbox and changed it to 1.5 stars. So while we were talking about it, so I think this is a clear like D-. The only thing saving it from an F is Will Poulter, without a doubt.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it a D-.
Okay. That's good. Yeah, D-. I'm happy if you liked this movie. I'm happy for you. I encourage you to watch some other things, but if that's your thing, good for you.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just like in getting on Letterboxd and looking at people's reviews, like there are times when people give this movie like 4 stars, even like 3.5, and I'm just like, we just watched different movies. I don't know what you guys saw, and I wish I saw the 4-star movie, but unfortunately, I saw a 1.5 star movie.
Yeah, I also like you saw a D- movie, so I'm gonna have to go with the D-. So we're both going with D- here. Not ideal, not where we wanted to be 2 episodes back into 24 minutes of A24, but here we are. We're putting in the work is what we're doing.
We are.
So that's a movie, and we talked about it, and I'm glad that it is through, and I will probably never ever think about Death of a Unicorn again.
Never ever. No, that was it. I can't imagine. I think the only time we're going to talk about Death of the Unicorn again is if we talk about when we talk about Friendship and Paul Rudd. That might be the only time we talk about this again. But
that's true. That's fair. That's a good take. Okay, so that wraps our conversation on Death of a Unicorn. A little shorter because it is unfortunate the circumstance we find ourselves in. What are we doing next time on the pod? I think we're slated to be talking about Warfare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Will Poulter in that film as well. Are you excited for Warfare? Yeah. Written by Alex Garland, directed by I believe, an Iraq vet, Ray Mendoza.
Yeah, I'm very curious about it. Like there have obviously been other films about the Iraq war, all that kind of stuff, but it's interesting to live in a time where you lived through the war that the movie is about. It's just like, oh, that's going to be kind
Yeah.
of an interesting thing to watch. So, looks very like, this realism in the type of filmmaking. So I'm curious to see how it plays in the theater.
Yeah. I'm really interested. Someone to look out for, Cosmo Jarvis is in this film. He was just in the Alto Knights, which I think is a fine, if not reductive film. He's in Warfare, and the only reason I bring him up is because he's going to be in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Something to maybe look out for in his Warfare performance here.
Mm-hmm.
I am bummed. I'm traveling during the IMAX preview of this, and then I will not be able to see it in IMAX, I believe. So I hope that you can see it in IMAX to maybe get the full effect, because I feel like this is an IMAX movie, and I'm perplexed that my city is not showing it in IMAX like whatsoever. But alas, what are you gonna do?
What can you do?
What can you do? So we'll talk about Warfare next time on the pod. I hope a better conversation than these last 2 episodes.
Yes, yeah. I hope we get out of the D's as far as our gradings are concerned. So,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, you all know that we gave this a D-. What did you guys think of Death of a Unicorn? Have you seen it? Let us know. We are on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Again, genuinely, if you like this movie, I would love to hear why, what we missed out on. Please let us know. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can watch our beautiful faces as we talk about these films and these projects. Very thankful for everyone and all your support. So we'll see you guys next time. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.